Hello everybody, what's up? This is CaptainTurbo, back with another Captain's Log episode, finally, after a very long delay between episode 6 and 7. I believe this is episode 7 anyway, and I'm going to treat it as episode 7. And, well, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm actually going to be doing a full-fledged review. Well, I say full-fledged, I'm going to do it in my own personal way that I like to do it. Very similar to how I've done previous Captain's Log episodes, and if you've watched any of them, you know these episodes tend to be more about my personal experience with the game, my personal thoughts and opinions and stuff. You know, I don't come at this as a actual reviewer with a critical standpoint. You know, I give you my personal opinion, and you know, if you don't like it, that's fine. But this is all going to be opinionated, not looking at this from a very logical standpoint or anything like that. Also, if all goes well, I have slightly better better editing equipment, so you guys should be able to see some footage on the right hand side of the screen right now, hopefully, to incorporate with the review, because, you know, looking at a blank screen, just one picture, it's okay for podcasts and stuff, but it can get kind of boring, so hopefully you guys will enjoy that. And hopefully I have got the soundtrack playing in the background. Now, in case you already don't know about the title, or about the fact that the video on the right should be giving it dead away, or the background for that matter, if my plan goes all to fruition, I am reviewing Xenoblade Chronicles. Why? Because I recently just completed the game for the first time. Now, just get into it very quickly. I've known about Xenoblade Chronicles for a very long time, not long after its release. Hellfire Commentaries did a live stream of it, or NTOM64 of Hellfire Commentaries did a live stream of the entire game. I watched it, I fell in love with the game, and I desperately wanted to play it. This was back in like 2008 or 9, I believe, by the way, a long time ago. And I really wanted to play it so badly. The only problem is, the game was fucking expensive, and I don't think at the time I had a Wii. I bought a Wii last summer, around August, and one of the reasons I got it was so I could get Xenoblade Chronicles. By the way, I got the Wii really cheap. The Wii was like, I want to say about £30, and I got like 5 controls with the fucking thing. So, I got the Wii, and then a couple months later, around October, November of 2015, by the way, just in case you're wondering of the actual year, I bought on eBay Xenoblade Chronicles and The Last Story, both for the Wii, for £79, which isn't bad considering that some people were asking £100 for Xenoblade Chronicles alone. You know, I got 2 really quite rare games for the Wii for a decent price, I thought. Not something I would usually pay for games. You know, I'm someone that looks for a bargain and stuff like that. But ultimately, I'm glad I did. Now, my apologies. I didn't actually do anything other than try the game out first, because I just wanted to make sure the game worked and everything. Didn't know at the time my parents were getting me a 3DS for Christmas, and a new 3DS at that. In fact, the Xenoblade Chronicles one. The Xenoblade Chronicles 3DS one. So I now own 2 versions of the same game, one for the Wii, one for the 3DS, and it's actually the 3DS that I completed, because I'm the type of gamer that likes to just lay in bed at night and just play like RPGs and stuff in bed, you know, on a handheld. You know, I don't mind doing it on a video game console, an actual console, if I have no other option, but if I've got a choice, I will definitely pick the handheld option. Now, with the backstory out of the way, well, actually, I'm not finished with backstory. I actually knew going in this was going to be a long game, and brother, that could not have been a truer statement if you ever said it. I had to restart the game 3 times. I had my 3DS actually crash on me. I had to send it to Nintendo, who, by the way, are some of the slowest fuckers to get something repaired, and arguably the worst people I've ever known for wanting to repair something. It took them over a month to repair something that was so simple. But essentially, it's taken me since Christmas up until early May to beat the game. It was a doozy. Alright, so I guess I'll start off with the fact that this was technically my first action JRPG. Or I should say real-time JRPG. By that I mean I'm used to more traditional turn-based combat, like say in Pokemon or certain Final Fantasy games, where the most innovative thing was the active time battle mechanic. I have had 1 hour experience with the original Kingdom Hearts, but that was about it. In many ways, Xenoblade Chronicles, in my eyes, Xenoblade Chronicles is my first action RPG, and it kicked my ass going in. It took me time to learn the controls, it took me time to get used to not having time to think, essentially. You know, when you're in Xenoblade Chronicles and you're fighting an enemy, you know, you are in there, you don't have time to think, you've just got to react. And I'm going too far thingy for this for now. I'm just saying this was my first JRPG that was action-based, action combat orientated, and ultimately it had a bit of a learning curve to it. But let's start off with the actual story. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers or anything like that, so you know, don't worry about that. If you've never played the game, if you've never seen the game, and you do want to experience it either by Let's Plays or buying it and playing it yourself, whatever, I'll stay away from major plot spoilers for the most part. The story is basically about 2 nations going to war. The Homs, which are a human-based, organic-based life form, very human, pretty much humans for the most part. And then you have the Mechon, who are machine in nature. You know, they're all cybernetic organisms, stuff like that. And the war essentially spreads across, I believe it's supposed to be something like millennia. They're essentially living on the planet 2 giant how can I say this? 2 giant beings. There's the Mechonis and the Bionis. Now, the Bionis is basically the home of the Homs and a bunch of other different races, and the Mechonis is essentially the home of the Mechon. Now, one point in time, many years ago, these 2 giant behemoths fought over, I guess... well, I can't give it away without spoiling it. Basically, these 2 giant monsters fought each other to a standstill. One stabbed the other one, and I think the other one got the other one in the shoulder as well. Now, these 2 giant behemoths are now connected by the swords, and this is where the war comes into play, as you have the Mechon and you have the Mechon and you have the, let's just call it the organics, because there's more than the Homs. You have the Mechon, and then you have the organics fighting over basically a bunch of different shit, but basically fighting over different types of ways to live life and stuff like that. You know, very basic stuff. And at the full front of this is a weapon called the Monado, which is essentially a sword that can cut through Mechon very easily. And the game starts you off actually with a character called Dumban, who isn't actually the main protagonist, by the way, even though he looks like you're a very stereotypical JRPG protagonist, but you play as him for like the prologue of the game. No, I wouldn't even say the prologue, the tutorial, let's say. And essentially the Monado has different abilities and different powers. It gives you the power to see slightly into the future during battles and stuff, which comes in handy, and it'll also do the same during stories, during the actual story, where it'll show the main character, Shulk, by the way, different things that are going to happen, different people he'll meet, and different scenarios that could have taken place if he did something differently. So, without giving too much away, essentially Shulk's home of Colony 9 gets attacked by certain Mechon, well, I should say a Mechon army, and in a fit of rage over the loss of somebody, Shulk and his friend essentially set off to get revenge upon the metal-faced Mechon, which is essentially a giant Mechon that it's kind of like one of those Phantom of the Opera type masks. I don't know the name of them. And that's pretty much the story for the most part to begin with. And you'll spend about, I would say, 40, maybe around 40 hours just doing that, basically, just tracking this mental face down to get revenge. You'll come across different characters along the way. The first character you'll come across is a woman called Sharla, who will act as your healer for the team, and has a bit of a love interest thing going with your best friend Ryan. You know, it's actually not bad. It's pretty decent in terms of plot. You'll eventually discover certain things about the Mechon that you did not know, and here's the thing, I want to keep going, but I can't really without giving too much away. Let's just say not everything is as it appears to be. You'll find out everything you thought you know was a lie at certain points. Shulk's backstory himself is actually very interesting and will ultimately come into play. You know, Shulk is not just some nobody who aspires to be a somebody. You know, he's basically the chosen one trope, for lack of a better word. You know, his backstory goes into why he's able to use the Monado and how he's able to do certain things that other Homs couldn't do. And it's interesting to say the least. Like I said, I'm just really thinking of a way to put this without having to give away too much of the story. I'll try to just give it a few tidbits here and there as I explain some of the other aspects of the game. Characters for the game, now I will point out there will be certain spoilers here, but I'll try and avoid them as best I can. Shulk, pretty much your average everyday guy, to be honest. You know, he works basically as, I guess you could say, his role would be something akin to an inventor slash mechanic type. You know, he takes care of dealing with people's armor and weapons and stuff. And he's also basically in charge of researching the Monado's power itself. You know, put the hands of this big fucking powerful weapon in the hands of a guy who's got to be a teenager at best. But, you know, it's an RPG, what can you expect? Shulk plays the every guy pretty well. You know, he's very kind-hearted, he's very open to helping people. You know, cares very much about his friends. A little bit of a, I wouldn't say a doofus, definitely a little bit shy with his feelings for certain characters and stuff like that. Ultimately, Shulk is actually a very good protagonist, though. You know, this is not like Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. You know, this guy is actually likable. You know, I actually really like Shulk, and, you know, most people will probably know Shulk from Super Smash Bros. And all that, so you already know what his voice sounds like. Actually, I'll get onto the voice acting real quick here. I love the voice acting, but then again, it's pretty much a British cast, and, you know, I recognize a lot of the accents and stuff, and I think it's fantastic. I can see why some people don't like the voice acting in the game, but I think it's just one of those things that you either like or you don't. Next, we'll talk about Shulk's best friend Ryan. Definitely is the token, I wouldn't say idiot, but lacking brain power character. You know, he's the whacker of the group. He's the Zell of the group. You know, he's basically there somewhat for comedic effect, but effectively he's also there basically to be like Shulk's anchor, I guess you could say, whenever Shulk starts to question his own abilities or worrying about stuff. You know, Ryan's always there to reel him in, make him feel better and stuff. You know, he's definitely the voice of reason for Shulk in many ways, better than anyone. And, you know, it's very much a really fun and interesting camaraderie that the two characters have together, because Shulk will be with you in the game from beginning to end. If you want him in your team, he's there pretty much from the end of the tutorial with Dunban up until the end of the game, if you like. You know, it's nice to see that, you know. Also, he's not really annoying or anything like that. You know, he has, like I said, he's not the smartest character on the group roster, but he's not annoying like Waka could be or Zell was most of the time. You know, I actually quite like Ryan. He's also the heavy... oh yeah, I didn't go into the gameplay aspect, but Ryan is basically your big heavy tank. You know, he can deal out powerful blows. You know, he can also take quite a bit of damage. Ryan generally tends to be one of my main three that I tend to use. But I don't actually play as him in the game. You know, he's one of the party members, but I don't play as him. But because he hits so hard and he's got pretty good defense, you know, I generally keep him around. Shulk, on the other hand, is more like your jack of all trades, but because he has the Monado, you're going to need him for probably the first half of the game at least. He has some pretty decent arts, which I'll go into a little bit later, which are basically like talents and certain abilities that characters have, but again, I'll go into that more later. Shulk is definitely the jack-of-all-trades character, and because he has the Monado, you will need him for the first half of the game, and you can actually power Shulk up quite a lot by the end of the game as well, so I definitely have Shulk on the team and usually play as him. If not him, it's usually the third character that I'm going to talk about in the fourth character I'll talk about in a few minutes. But we'll talk about the next character. You've got Fiora, who's Shulk and Ryan's childhood friend, I believe. She's also Dunban's little sister, which I actually don't think gets explained until much later in the game. I actually thought they were like boyfriend and girlfriend when I first saw the live stream years ago, but no, they're brother and sister. Fiora, you get to play as a little bit at the beginning of the game, but she won't be a major part of the group until much later in the game. Like, you're talking the second half at the earliest. I don't really tend to play her in my group too often, but she's somewhat similar to Shulk in a sort of jack-of-all-trades type, but I think she goes more for speed than anything else. But in terms of like characterization, you know, she's always worrying about Shulk. You know, she's quite hard on Ryan, always getting him to protect Shulk. You know, obviously, I'm gonna spoiler alert here, but yeah, she's the one who's Shulk's main love interest for the game. You know, she plays like the mother hen, I guess you could say. You know, she obviously cares about her friends very much. She loves her brother very much. I don't really have anything to say. She's a good character at the end of the day. She's not really got anything I find too annoying about her or anything like that. I guess that's all I really have to say. Next up is someone I do actually have a lot to talk about, is Charla, who you'll meet about a couple hours into the game. She's usually the... apart from the first three, she's the first party member that you'll find. Charla is essentially a member of Colony 6 who have recently been attacked by the Mechon. You'll meet her little brother, actually, who basically gets stranded in the... in one of the areas close to Colony 6, sorry. When you reunite her with her brother, you know, that's where Shulk and Ryan meet her, and essentially they have to go on a quest to recover, I believe her brother's name is Juju. Juju essentially gets pissed off about something Charla says and wants to prove himself, so he goes out to he goes out to fight some of the Mechon, and he essentially gets kidnapped. So yeah. By the way, her brother is about 11 years old, so he's an annoying little brat, and quite honestly, he's one of the few characters I don't like, but thankfully, he's an NPC. That's where Charlotte will basically join your party, and then after that little not a side quest, but that part of the plot is over with, she'll essentially join your party in full. But Charlotte is usually the Ryan I'll keep on my team most of the time. Charlotte I have on my team 100% of the time after I get her. Charlotte is essentially your medic, your healer, your first aid woman. She has a gun that can shoot pretty powerful bullets at certain enemies, but it's her healing hearts that are essential for the game, in my opinion. Usually, if I don't have Charlotte, if I'm not playing as Charlotte, I will at least have her in my team. I find her to be easily the most useful character. You know, as a player myself, if I'm not playing, you know, frontline swordsman or something in an MMO or something like that, or like League of Legends, I'll be the medic. I'll be the person going around making sure everyone's healed and stuff like that. You know, I'm the support type, so playing as Charlotte for me is a lot easier, because I found that when you have Charlotte in your team, she'll heal you at times, but she doesn't react quick enough sometimes, so I always make sure I'm playing as healer, especially for boss battles. I'm playing as healer so that I can make sure that none of my party dies. because it can be very, very fucking difficult to win the battle if any of your team members go down. Other than that, her personality, you know, she's definitely the voice of reason for many. You know, she's, as I already mentioned, she plays pretty much the love interest for Ryan over the course of the game. I wouldn't really know how else to describe Charlotte, to be honest. She's a little bit brass at times, which actually isn't a bad thing, to be honest. The only thing I didn't like about Charlotte is the fact, as I've already mentioned, she comes with her little brother Juju. Thankfully he doesn't play a major role past saving him the second time. So thankfully we don't have to put up with him for long. Yeah, Charlotte, definitely one of my favourite characters in the game to both play as, and I actually quite like her as a character as well. I'm actually not sure which character we get next, but I'm gonna say... Yeah, I'm pretty sure the next character you actually get in your team is Dunban. Dunban will come and join your party. Basically, Dunban hands over, or I should say relinquishes the Monado to Shulk. Dunban essentially injures his arm using the Monado, which is something that apparently happens to people that can wield the Monado, is essentially, after a certain point in time, their body just won't be able to take the Monado's power anymore. And realizing that Shulk is one of the few people that can actually use the Monado, Dunban agrees to let him take it and goes off. He has every intention of joining Ryan and Shulk eventually, but he has to rest up his arm first, which has been injured by the Monado, as I already mentioned. He joins you after. I apologise for not being able to remember the name of the area. In fact, I'll actually start getting some of this information up on the internet, shall I? He'll join you after you exit a certain mine area. I can't remember the name of the area, but it comes after a major boss battle, or at least a pretty big boss battle. And I'm gonna be honest here, I don't tend to use Dunban too often, but he's sort of a blend between Shulk and Ryan. He's definitely a pretty heavy hitter, but he's also has a lot of different abilities and stuff like that. As I said, I don't really tend to play as him too often, so I don't really have a whole lot of experience with his actual abilities and all that, so hopefully you guys will forgive me for that. But as a character, you know, he's definitely... You know, I've used this word already. I would actually say, yes, Dunban is definitely the most level-headed one of the group. You know, he's always polite, he's always very kind to people, but he definitely has a bit of an edge to him in battle. He's also... I don't know, he's definitely... He's a man of honor is the best way I can put it. He's someone who believes in justice and stuff like that. I can't really describe him too much. A lot of the characters' interactions with one another are better than their actual character growth, so when it comes to actually just describing the characters, I can't really do so in much depth. You know, it's kind of like with Mass Effect, the characters have fantastic character interactions, but the character growth can be questionable depending on which character, and that's very true for Xenoblade Chronicles in my opinion. But Dunban is definitely a calm guy for the most part. It does definitely have a bit of an edge, as you see in certain cutscenes when it comes to certain things that happen. But I don't really tend to play as him too often, apart from the few times that you're actually forced to play as him. But personally, I find the character perfectly okay. I have no problem with it whatsoever, and that's pretty much all I have to say, really. Alright, I'm just actually looking online right now to see if I can find the name of the mine place. Here's the thing, guys, I was playing the game only about a week ago and I've already forgotten a lot of this stuff. See if this is it, hopefully. Yeah, I think it's just the E for mine. You find Dumben after the E for mine, so yeah, whatever. The next character we come across is Amelia. You find her basically unconscious. She's one of the High Entia. Essentially a race that lives on the higher locations of the Bionis. They essentially have sort of like wings growing out of their heads. Something akin to that anyway. Amelia is essentially your black mage of the group. You know, she deals out things like fire, water, electricity damage and all that stuff. I'm gonna be honest here, I find her really fucking difficult to use. And she is very, very essential for some of the later bosses. But holy cow, I did not understand, and to be honest, I still kind of don't understand how to use Amelia correctly. But she's very by-the-books type of character, you know, she's not prone to expressing her emotions too often, especially when you first meet her. It also turns out that, spoiler alert, she's royalty in a way. You know, she's part of the higher-ups. Daughter, she's basically related to something like the president or the king of the high-end tier homeland, I should say, sorry. And so in many ways she's the princess, like that, so we'll just call her the princess. And like I said, she's very stoic, you know, she doesn't really crack any jokes very often or anything like that, you know, you don't see her express too many emotions too often, at least among the rest of the group, at least at first. But you know, she's still quite friendly, she's still very polite to everyone. And yeah, spoiler alert, she developed something of a crush on Shulk, but obviously Shulk is, you know, all for Fiora and stuff like that. But you know, it's an interesting aspect, you know, it's one of those things that would have been interesting to see if you'd have had a choice about who to romance in the game, kind of like what Final Fantasy VII did. Would have been interesting to see the game pull that off. Obviously, can't always work, and to be honest, it's okay for the story, you know, it makes Amelia a little bit more likable, you know, see her express an emotion here and there with regards to Shulk. And there's actually quite a funny bit of dialogue at a certain point if you do a certain thing at a certain time. Kind of makes her look like a bit of a pervert as well. But yeah, in terms of gameplay, Amelia is definitely recommended for some of the later bosses with her ether attacks. However, I've never been able to work out how to do them myself, for the most part, at least proficiently. So I generally have Amelia on my team for, I would say like, the last quarter of the game. Not right till the end, but for the last quarter of the game, she's definitely a part of the group more often than not. Other than that, I don't really tend to use her too often, but I like her character perfectly fine. Alright, next up we have Ricky, who is a, how can I put it? He basically looks like a cross between a Pokemon and Kirby. He's basically a big ball of, I think they're either feathers or fur. I can't really tell, and the thing itself doesn't, the model itself doesn't really help. He's basically a big fucking beach ball. But essentially, Ricky is part of a race called the Nopon. He's actually, I think, the oldest character in the party as well. Actually, no, that's a lie. Amelia is technically 88, I believe. She just obviously looks about 16. Ricky is actually 40 years old. He has a family. You'll meet Ricky when you actually reach the Nopon village. And he basically owes a big fucking debt to certain members of the tribe or something like that. So, in hopes of getting rid of the debt, he joins the group in hopes that he can track down some treasure or something to pay off the debt. Ricky is actually a really, really useful character in many ways. He, again, is a jack of all trades, but he's a surprisingly hard hitter, and he can tank like fucking crazy, despite his size. My only problem is I don't find many of his arts that useful for my playstyle. So I generally don't tend to use Ricky. In fact, I use Ricky probably the least amount of any character in the game, apart from maybe Dumban. But yeah, he's got certain abilities. He can use certain arts or spells, whatever you want to call them. But they're all quite underpowered compared to Ricky is the one who's like essentially the red mage. He can do certain. He has a couple of white mage abilities like healing and stuff, and he has a couple of black mage stuff. The problem is none of them are particularly that powerful. I found, at least compared to Amelia and Charlotte. And ultimately, I just don't find myself using Ricky that often, just for that pure reason alone. I'm sure probably people can get plenty of use out of Ricky, but unfortunately for me, I just got better options in the game, and I said it just doesn't really suit my playstyle when it comes to this type of game. But Ricky is a character, you know, Nopon have a very interesting way of speaking and a very interesting way of life. But Ricky is Ricky's a very interesting character. He has a very open mouth, you know, he doesn't mind saying certain things that others might find socially awkward and stuff. Not in a nasty way, just in a sort of Nopon way. Very nice to the characters and stuff like that, but not again saying something when someone says something annoying or something like that. I really trivializing the character here. Sorry, and I apologize. And they just have a very strange way of speaking. Like I said, Ricky will call his wife, who he has 6 children with, like wifey pon, and he'll call Shulk friend Shulk, or Shulk friend, or Amelia friend. And I don't know, he's an entertaining character. That's the best way I can put it. He's there for comic relief to an extent, the same way Ryan is, but at the same time, you know, he also isn't, again, is offering a comforting shoulder or whatever a Nopon can offer, really, because of their size, to the group when they need it. And I actually do like Ricky as a character. I just can't use him for my playstyle, sadly. But ultimately, I do like Ricky. And I'm trying to think, have I forgotten anybody? I think that is everybody. At least that's the playable characters anyway. As a whole, you know, there isn't a single character in Xenoblade Chronicles for the group that I don't like. You know, everyone averages from good to great, in my opinion, and that's hard to come by, especially for a JRPG, in my opinion. You know, I liked the antagonist, who, again, I won't go into because that would definitely go more into spoiler territory. A lot of the NPCs are interesting in their own right. Like I said, I will say I don't like Juju. I find Juju very fucking annoying. Then again, kid characters always tend to be, for the most part, quite annoying. But yeah, I kind of liked all the characters, to be honest. Yeah, I guess that's it for story and characters. I mean, I know I haven't gone really that into depths and all that. But I apologize again, but I don't want to spoil too much. But I'm already like nearly 35 minutes into this, or sorry, a little over 30 minutes into this, and I don't want to be here for longer than an hour max. Next I'll go is graphics. Graphically, the fact that the game can actually get on the 3DS, even if it is the new 3DS, is very impressive. But the graphics are definitely not great. The locations, the actual set pieces are fucking phenomenal to look at. You know, the draw distances make everything look amazing. You know, just go look at, you know, go start the game up. In fact, if you're looking at the game now, just go and look at the right hand side of my screen and you'll see, hopefully, some of the backdrops and stuff. You know, they're fantastic in my opinion. The character models, though, are where the game lags badly. In cutscenes you may have seen while watching this video, the character models are not great. They're very washed out. They look like chalk drawings at times, or something like that. I don't know how to describe it. But things like visual effects, like when you're in battle and you know you're using ether attacks, or you're using the powers of the Monado and stuff, all those little special effects and stuff for the game look fantastic. The presentation overall is actually quite good if you can get past the character models. You gotta remember, the guys, this was a Wii game. You know, this was essentially, you gotta remember the Wii's power was something akin to somewhere between Gen 6 and Gen 7. You know, you could make nice looking games on the Wii, but you couldn't make them look as nice as, say, well, let me just look at my game collection for a second. You were not going to get, like, GTA 5 graphics on a Wii. You know, by GTA 5, I mean, like, GTA 5 on PS3 and Xbox 360. You weren't going to get that style of graphical power on the Wii. So, the fact that the Wii managed to pull off this as well as it did was nice. I just wish the character models were a little bit nicer. But ultimately, I can understand having to compromise with how big the game actually is. But in terms of other things like style and stuff, you know, I love the look of the world. You know, the Bionis and the Mechonis, you know, it's an amazing place to just run through the game for. You know, the game is very much, the game is very linear, but at the same time, all the areas are very open. You know, Final Fantasy 13, this is not. You know, there are definitely, you know, like the, I'm trying to remember the name of the area. And if I can remember it, I'll definitely say it in a second. Things like, and I apologize if I butcher the name here. The Gua Plain or something like that. Basically, on the Bionis leg, it's fucking incredible to look at. You've got so much lush green, such a big area to be in. You know, and so many different little cracks in the mountains that you can visit here and there, and certain locations where you can move off the beaten path into different locations. You know, and this isn't just for the whatever plains area. We'll just call it the Bionis leg area. You know, it's because that's where it is. This is pretty much the same for pretty much every single area in the game. You know, you have different areas. You're not just going in a straight line, for the most part anyway. You can just go in a straight line if you want, but you don't have to. There are different locations in every different area in the game to go. You know, even at the beginning of the game, in the Colony 9 area, or I should say the area surrounding Colony 9, you know, you have anything from level 1 to level, I think, like 70 monsters or something like that. You know, and you know, you can get to these areas with the level 70 monsters right off the bat. Obviously, you're not going to be able to fight them, but because you'll get your ass handed to you. But you can actually just go to those locations and see, alright, I can come back here later and grind these enemies if I want to, because these enemies will give me more experience. And that's pretty much the entire game in a nutshell. There's a couple things I don't like, is the fact that some of the areas get cut off, so you can't go back and enjoy the areas again after you've completed the game. But obviously, I mean, that happens a lot in RPGs anyway. These areas finally getting cut off. Music, but that's pretty much all I have to really say. You know, the game looks beautiful. The areas are lush and amazing to look at just from a design standpoint. Again, the only drawback I have with the game are the character models, but that's about it. Music, I won't stick on too much, because music is extremely subjective. I personally love most of this soundtrack. You know, You Will Know Our Names is one of my favorite pieces of music that doesn't have lyrics to it. I think it's fantastic. I think the overall music in the overall soundtrack, of the game is amazing as well. It's actually on my, not on my phone, but I did download the soundtrack because I love it. I think it's fantastic. Obviously, I won't give an overall grade or anything for that because it's music is extremely subjective, but I do think it's I do think it's absolutely amazing to the ears. Side stuff to do in the game. This is where I'm going to deviate a little bit from a lot of people think. Like any RPG, you can get side quests from anybody in the game, pretty much. Well, not from anybody in the game. There will essentially be an exclamation mark above a NPC who has a quest for you. I don't like this. I don't like doing side quests in this game. I'm going to be honest, I don't find the rewards are worth it, and I don't find the experience you get worth it either. You get experience for just finding new locations in the game anyway, so I find the added addition of side quests you know, a harmless induction to the game, but one I just don't find myself playing. I don't like a lot of the quests in this game because one of the first quests you get off the bat is you've got to deliver grandma's cookies or something to her grandson. But I don't like the way the game does this. I'm so used to MMOs basically telling me where on the map I need to go to deliver something that I don't like the fact that I've got to keep looking around, and essentially, in my opinion, I found I just have to get lucky. Basically what you have to do is you have to wait until nighttime, and then you have to go all the way over to the other side of Colony 9 to deliver the cookies. And to be honest, the experience is so not fucking worth it, by the way, for that side quest. But a lot of the side quests are basically like that. It's basically defeat this number of enemies, or get me this item, or deliver this item. And, you know, you can't blame the game for that. That's basically side quests in an RPG in a nutshell. But I honestly don't find myself enjoying the side quests in this game whatsoever. There is a much later, bigger side quest you can do where you've got to basically re-establish Colony 6. This isn't part of the main quest, and quite honestly, a lot of what they want you to do can be really fucking annoying. They want you to get certain items and certain from enemy drops or things that you can just pick up in general. The problem is, a lot of these items you need to kill enemies for, and the enemy will not always be in the area it's supposed to be until a certain point, or just a certain RNG. So I just did not find myself enjoying the side quests in this game, period. I love the main quest, don't get me wrong, but the side quests just did not interest me. You also have a collectopedia and stuff like that. If you collect all of the items in a certain... Like, you'll have Colony 9, and then you'll have Colony 9. Colony 9 flowers, Colony 9 bugs, Colony 9 foods, stuff like that. And if you can complete any of these sections, you'll get a gem which will essentially add different effects to different abilities and give you better strength, better ether attacks, better ether defense, stuff like that, and they're very useful. But I'll go more into that in the gameplay section in a minute. And if you can complete the entire section, like you can complete not just Colony 9 foods, but all of Colony 9, then you'll get a pretty decent... You'll get a special reward for that, but it's not always a gem. It can sometimes be a bit of armor or weapon, something like that. The collectopedia I actually don't mind doing because a lot of the stuff you generally pick up on your way through the game anyway, so, you know, it's harmless, and I generally tend to find myself nearly completing it on the file that I've got now. But that's pretty much it for side stuff, to be honest. After the game is done, you can go check out some areas that might have been too high leveled for you before the end of the game. But there's not really any side stuff. There's no card games, there's no golden saucer type area in the game or anything like that. But ultimately, you'll be spending so much time on the main quest anyway, probably, that you're not going to feel too let down by it. At least I didn't, anyway. Alright, now the gameplay itself. I'm nearly over 40 minutes in, Jesus fucking Christ. The gameplay, as I already mentioned, is more action-based. You know, you don't have time to think. You've just got enough time to react, but that's about it. The game works very simple. It's very, I suppose you could say, realistic in a way. You know, you have certain abilities, like Shulk, for instance, has a attack called Backslash. If you can get the enemy to get its attention to one of your teammates, and you run behind the enemy and then perform the Backslash art, you'll essentially do double damage. Or not double damage, sorry, you'll do extra damage to the enemy. And there's a bunch of different arts like this for all the characters. You know, there's a one for side attacks. There's a one that you can get basically a one-shot hit, a one-shot kill if the enemy is dazed, for Charlotte anyway. The percentage of it happening is low, but it's another art that you can do and stuff like that. I already mentioned the gems. Gems in the game will essentially affect your character's abilities and stuff like that. You can stick on a gem that will increase Shulk's strength, his his defense, his magic defense, magic attack, and his agility. The agility is honestly one of the most important aspects of the game. Your agility is essentially your speed, which affects your number of attacks in battle. Your agility is definitely is considered to be one of the most important. A lot of people say it's the most important. I would agree to an extent with that as well. So yeah, make sure you don't sell any gems you get in the game. Maybe some of the lower level gems. There are 5 levels of gems. You can also create gems by using certain capsules and different crystals that you can pick up throughout the entire game as well, from basically mining certain ether crystals you'll come across throughout your main game. Again, you'll come across these anyway, so you don't have to really go too far off a beaten path to find them. But you can find different ones if you do decide to go off a beaten path, I should say, but you will come across many anyway. The game acts... The one aspect I really don't like about the gameplay, though, is that you are only in control of one character. For the most part, I'll go more into that in a moment. Essentially, as I said, you'll play... If you've got a team of, let's say, Shulk, Charlotte, and Ryan, and I'm basically in control of Shulk. If I get knocked out... Right, let me explain this again, sorry. First of all, you have something called an infinity bar. Now this is in the top left hand corner. I don't think you guys can see it on my screen yet. I can't remember because I'm not actually looking at the video right now. Sorry, so I apologize for that. The infinity bar is cut up into 3 sections. If you get it to max out, you can do what's called a chain attack. This is the one time you can actually take control of all 3 characters in the actual group while fighting. You'll essentially pick one attack as Shulk, and then you'll follow that up with an attack with either Ryan or Charlotte, and then finally you'll use an attack with the other one that you haven't used yet. Now if you can get a chain going, you can get more than 3 attacks, and if your affinity for each other is higher, again I'll go more into affinity in a moment, you can get loads and loads. I got something like, I think it was about 15 attacks with one chain attack at one point. But that's the one time that you can use the other 2 characters in the game. Sorry, in your group at any one time. Now, I already mentioned that the affinity bar is broken up into 3 sections. Now, if one of the characters gets knocked out, you can use... if you've got enough charge, if you've got any of your affinity bar charged up, one of the 3 bars charged up, you can spend that. You can spend a charge of that affinity bar to revive your downed team member. Now, this is something I don't like. Now, I don't like the actual aspect. What I don't like in this is the fact, and this is more personal preference rather than anything else, I don't like the fact that if I get knocked out, I can't jump over to one of the other characters and take control. I know it's such a petty thing, but I'm so used to the turn-based aspect in other games where if one character gets knocked out, that doesn't matter because I'm in control of the entire party. And I can understand why it's like this. I guess this is something that a lot of action RPGs do. But it's just something I found myself not enjoying. Also, I've noticed that even if I'm playing as whatever character and I get knocked out, you know, your party members, if there's still at least one party member around and you've got an infinity bar filled up, they will heal you. Or I apologize, I should say they revive you. But this doesn't always seem to happen. It seems that if you leave it too long, I don't know, even if you've got a full infinity bar and your character, the one you're playing as, is down, the game will just black out and you'll go back to your last save point or whatever area is closest to you that you died. I don't know why this happens. I have honestly no idea why this happens whatsoever. I've tried a couple different things. It seems if I essentially press B or something like that, the characters are more likely to come to me. I guess that's what happens, but it's something I don't particularly enjoy, and honestly it's the only aspect of the game I honestly don't like. But I also go into the infinity thing now. Now the infinity is essentially your character's likability with one another. The more you play with certain characters, the higher their ability will be. If you help them during battle, like if they get dazed or if they get knocked down or something, you revive them or help them, your affinity will go up and you'll be able to do and you'll be able to do certain aspects, like you'll have heart-to-hearts, which are basically little cutscenes, not voice-acted cutscenes, but things that add a little bit more to the plot here and there, scattered about the entire world of Xenoblade Chronicles. They're nice little side things if you want to do them. I've only done a couple of them because I just can't be bothered to go around finding them all and going back to just get these little cutscenes. Affinity can also unlock certain aspects, like certain characters will have certain abilities that they'll unlock the further they go. Shulk, for instance, can get abilities that will do it so where if you revive a down character, they'll have more HP when they get revived. Like, they'll come back, and usually if you revive someone, they'll have only like 100 of their health back instead of the full 500. But if you max it out, if you get the more health upon revival ability for Shulk, that person might come back with 200 health instead of 100. You know, and you can link these abilities to other players' abilities, so they get to use the same ability you do, and you get to use their abilities and stuff like that, with things called affinity coins, which you'll get usually from either leveling up or defeating bosses or beating special enemies in the game. I'm using the word special because I can't remember the actual term, but usually the special characters, special enemies are usually more powerful than the normal enemies. Like, you'll get an enemy called a Crabble. Well, there might be a Crabble that's a higher level and has more health and more abilities, more strength than the normal Crabble. But if you destroy this Crabble, you'll get an affinity coin, which you can spend to help your characters along the way. Having higher affinity also helps you with gem crafting. The more affinity you have, the better your gem crafting. Your gems will come out that you're crafting together. Certain characters work better anyway with certain other characters for creating gems. I don't fully understand the full mechanics around gem crafting. I did it a lot, you know. It helped me towards the end of the game, but I don't understand every single in and out of the game. I'm sorry, but I just don't understand it fully. Obviously, you'll be able to equip different weapons and items and armor and stuff like that throughout the game. Shulk, obviously you'll have a couple of instances here and there where you won't be able to change things, like with Shulk gets the Monado, you know, you can't really equip any other weapons to him. It won't even give you the option, but you get certain stuff like that. But you can still equip different armors and stuff. Also, that's an interesting little fact. The armors that you place on your characters will actually appear in cutscenes, you know, so it's not like, you know, I think the cutscenes have the exact same in-game models as the actual in-game stuff, which is nice, you know. And like I say, it's nice to see the fact that your armor and stuff also affects the cutscenes. You know, it's just a little thing like that, but I like it. You know, I think it's really good. Ultimately, I guess I'm winding down this now, so I'll just leave off on saying, first of all, I apologize I kept rambling here and there. I was kind of not planning on doing this, but, you know, I really wanted to talk about the game, and I'm not planning on doing an LP of this anytime soon. Maybe in the future, but not yet. But yeah, I want to say I am really, really happy I finally played this game. I should say got to finally play this game and play it to the end. You know, I fell in love with the game when I first saw Ntom64 play it for Hellfire Commentary's live stream. It took me years before I finally did it. In fact, 2006 compared to... I'm not even sure, to be honest. This would have been a while ago now. Yeah, I think they uploaded it to YouTube about back in 2012. I think they may have recorded it back in 2011, so not as long ago as I thought, but it's still taken me nearly 5 years to finally get around to playing the game and beating the game myself. But I definitely think it was worth it. You know, I love the game. As I said, I will say though, as a first action-based RPG, this was probably not the best way to start. I probably should have just found something a little bit easier, and a little bit shorter as well for my first action RPG, because this one, you know, it has a lot of aspects of the game itself already that you need to learn off by heart. Need to learn off the bat. You know, I probably should have started with something a bit more simple, but to be honest, I fell in love with the game. despite that, you know, like I say, after I got over the learning curve of the for the basics, you know, I was fine. I don't know. I love the story. I love the characters. I enjoyed the gameplay. I love the look and the sound and pretty much everything about this. You know, I will say this: if you've never played this game before, and you have access to the Wii or a 3DS, or I should say the new 3DS. Obviously, it only works on the new 3DS. But if you have access to either of those consoles, I would definitely recommend getting it. The Wii version is still really fucking expensive, but the 3DS version is pretty much the price of a normal game these days. But I would highly recommend you trying to find a way to play this game one way or the other. The only problem is it made me want to play Xenoblade Chronicles X, which I know just off the bat has nothing to do with this game, other than the name. Unfortunately, I don't own a Wii U. I have no intention of getting a Wii U. Maybe if it comes out on the NX, I might get an NX at some point in the future. But I can't recommend this game highly enough. Some people might be put off the game by the pure length. Even taking out side quests for the most part, and skipping a lot of cutscenes, which I did, by the way, obviously, because I said I've seen the live stream, and I watched the live stream again about a year ago, so I already remembered most of the story. But even cutting out a good chunk of the side quests and a good chunk of the cutscenes, my full playthrough took me about 58 hours, I believe, maybe call it 60 hours, and that's just playing the game through to begin to end with minimal cutscenes and side quests. So if you do take in account all the plot and let's say half the side quests, because some of them you do have to go off the beaten path for, so the full story and half the side quests, you're talking about 80 hours your first time through. And that could be quite daunting to someone who's not used to that length for a game. Personally, I think it's worth it, but it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I think that's about it, though, guys. I apologize if I sound a little bit nervous today. I haven't done one of these in a long time. You know, I really wasn't prepared for this. I just had a spare hour, so I thought, fuck it, let's do this. I don't know when I'll be back with doing one of these again. I'll probably be talking about whatever it is that Sega releases for the Sonic's 25th anniversary. That'll probably be my next Captain's Log episode. But thank you for listening. I hope you also enjoyed the video that's on the right. Hopefully that's there. Hopefully my software doesn't fuck me over and not do it. But I'll see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed whatever LP I'm playing. Go check out my other channels as well if you like, and I'll see you guys with whatever I do next. But until then, have a good night. Sayonara.